We're going to go right into Chapter 15, designing pressure pipe networks, after where we learned about gravity pipe networks. And this chapter is going to be a very similar layout, but we're going to have a few differences in design and various other things that we'll see on this first page here, talking about the chapter on 297. And it's going to follow a similar flow. First, we're going to talk about the pressure pipe networks themselves, and then we're going to learn how to create them in a couple of different various ways, somewhat similar to Chapter 14. And then we're going to learn a bit about editing pressure pipe networks in particular. So with that, let's get started. So one of the main things with pressure pipe networks is it's commonly referred to oftentimes as water supply lines or water lines, but it could also be natural gas or pressurized sanitary sewer lines for sewage. There's 3 or 4 main design considerations, actually a total of 5, and at least 3 or 4 of them are crossovers of very similar design fundamentals for gravity pipes, and they are starting at the bottom of this page. One that's maybe slightly different but has some similarities to gravity pipes with their own structures is the bends and curves must be constructed according to industry standard fittings with allowable deflections at joints for the pipes. We'll get a little more into that. The fittings are going to be something we're going to introduce that's a little different. Things like bends and tees and reducers and various things between the different pressure pipes. Secondly, the pipes must be sized according to a specific flow and pressure need. So pressure pipes move fluid substances via pressure, not gravity. So they must be appropriately sized for such. The next design principle is the pipes must be far enough underground, similar to gravity pipes, to avoid being damaged by freezing or other activities like traffic or various other conflicts or other drainage things and various other conflicts. And we'll learn a little more about that, which later versions of Civil 3D, we have a little more leeway into moving pipes around to avoid conflicts. Fourthly, the pipes must not be so far underground so it's cost prohibitive to install them, much like gravity pipes. That's always a big design consideration. And the last thing I'll mention here is appurtenances such as valves and hydrants, could be blow-offs, could be air release valves, booster pumps, must be included in the design to allow the lines to be controlled, much in the way with valves accessed, much in the way with hydrants for fire crews that need to put out a building, and maintained. So things like blow-off valves and air relief valves to maintain, help maintain the functionality of the pressure lines. So getting into that, in Civil 3D, pressure pipes are made up of pipes, of course, but within them, the things that appurtenance, as we talked about here, and things to make the pressure pipe network function in Civil 3D that are going to be called fittings, angles, and appurtenances. So fittings are things like the fitting, a bend or a T, various elbows that let the pipes go in different degrees of an angle to the next pipe. And those are the bend angles of those fittings. And with pressure pipes, this gets a little more advanced, why it came after Chapter 14. Each pipe has a slight amount of deflection in its design, depending on its material and temperature ranges and stuff. Amount of deflection the pipe can deflect. And Civil 3D is getting better with this to allow different deflection amounts to fit in different geometries. Another factor is the allowable bend radius for pipes. That is a little advanced for this, but basically it's a way to bend pipes that maybe have a certain diameter as they bend to an overall diameter along a curve. So you can draw pipes in the horizontal or vertical along curves, whereas gravity pipes aren't necessarily of that nature to the same amount that pressure pipes are. So just a lot more options for fitting them in unique geometries in the horizontal and vertical when we think of pressure pipes. Lastly is appurtenances are another part of the design. So we've talked about fittings and angles of those fittings. For example, a fire hydrant's a common one. It must be located above ground, somewhere on the ground level, so a fire truck can fit it, but it also so maintenance personnel can access it and use it and utilize it. So as we get into pressure pipes, we'll talk further. Pressure pipes use pressure to move substances in them rather than gravity and the flow of gravity downhill. So therefore, elevations are important, but they're not nearly as important to ensure proper flow of your pipes. But it is very important, however, that the pipeline has, once again, things we just discussed, things like adequate cover to prevent physical damage or freezing, different interactions with other underground pipes that can have conflicts running into other underground utilities. Since the flow isn't dependent on elevation as much, a designer can typically bend a pressure pipe a little more to avoid a gravity pipe if they're running into each other, let's say in the same elevation underground. So the pressure pipe can have a little bit more design leeway to go around a gravity sewer main, for example, rather than the other way around. A gravity sewer main might be a little more restrictive on its movements it can do to get around a water pipe. For example, with water pipes have more fittings and angles they can take and different deflection angles they can take. So they have a little more design leeway in the horizontal and the vertical in general. So all these things, fittings, pipes, and appurtenances, we'll break them down to those three. Those make up pressure pipe networks. So there are a few more nouns or objects to describe a pressure pipe network rather than a pipe network was just pipes and fittings, or excuse me, pipes and structures. On pressure pipes, we have fittings, pipes, and appurtenances. So there's relationships between these Civil 3D objects as we've always been learning, and they relate to surfaces and alignments and profiles, and all these things work together in the pressure pipe network as one. So this is getting to the level where we have our surfaces and alignments and profiles, and now we add pipe networks on top of them to all stay dynamic between the Civil 3D objects. So we have a new place in Prospector, we'll go there in a minute, where the pressure pipes will show up in their pressure pipes and fittings and appurtenances, and in newer versions of Civil 3D, starting in 2021, we have what's called pipe runs, which is pretty fascinating. I might try to attempt to do it with some of these older files here. And once again, as regular pipe networks or gravity pipe networks, these networks, these pressure pipe networks, have their own parts lists that are separate from gravity networks. They have different types of parts lists. A lot of companies have their own parts lists you can use. They contain different types of systems. Generally, in a given parts list, one might be for water, for example, or sanitary, or for gas. Those are very common parts lists. They would be segregated, split up amongst those, whatever substance they might carry, or municipality, or company possibly, those parts lists. We'll start by learning how to create pressure pipe networks. Similar to Chapter 14, you have a couple ways. You can create them in two ways, like we did in the last chapter. One is to lay out using basic AutoCAD stuff, such as polylines, arcs, curves, and you make your pipe network from that, your pressure pipe network. The next way is to use your layout tools. So the layout tools will be similar to Chapter 14, but they're all going to be stuck on the ribbon rather than a side toolbar that we saw in Chapter 14. And here's a little preview of what it'll look like. So we'll go into the first drawing here in a sec, creating pressure pipe network from objects. We'll just do this one real quick. Go into my first drawing. And once again, everything's on Moodle in Chapter 15. In your lab files area, you should have 6 unstarted, non-started files and 6 complete ones to check your work against for this chapter. We're going to start by going down to Madison Lane here, looking for this thick, fat polyline here. And we're going to go to make our first pressure pipe network here. We're going to go to Home tab, Pipe Network. We're going to say create pressure network from object. So your networks and your parts lists for your pipe network and your fittings and your appurtenances are only as good as the styles you have. And some of these styles can get a little difficult to build, but we luckily have some to utilize here. And I'm going to left data click to pick this fat polyline as my object I want to make a pipe network from. I will hit OK to accept the direction, the default direction. We'll get our dialog box up saying the beginning of our creation of a pressure pipe network. And I'm going to name it Madison Lane Water. And let's get some other things in here. We're going to find our network parts list to populate this network. And it's going to say water supply. The only other one available is standard, which comes CAN with Civil 3D. We're going to pick the size of pipe to be 4-inch DI, ductile iron. There's only 3 available in this little parts list, but that's fine for size of material. And surface name that we want to be referenced to, we're going to pick road FG. Let's pick for alignment name, Madison Lane is what it's going to be referencing. There's a few more options here that you have in these newer versions of CAD. You can do an offset distance from a given object, okay? But we're going to start, we'll skip that for now. We'll say create surface profile to follow. I'm going to leave that on for now. We're going to say to erase the existing entity here. I'm going to say here, this is where the cover, the amount of underground ground that is buried over the pipe, 3 feet. We're going to say it's 3 feet still, and it will set us up with that as our starting design criterion for keeping the pipe at the right depth so it doesn't freeze. So, you know, in maybe the city of Missoula or in where we are in the northern hemisphere here, a lot of times you got to keep some of these pipes buried 6 or 7 feet in a lot of these 8 different areas. There's all kinds of design considerations with that, but 3 feet is fairly shallow for some winter climates, for example. Let's hit OK. That made the beginning of our pressure pipe network. You can see that it populated over here, made it in the 3D, crossed under our gravity pipe network here for the sewer, and it is a pickable option over here. If I go back to my left viewport, give it a second, I'm going to pick it. It's picked in both spots, and it is called, actually I have the alignment selected there. Let me make sure I select the pipe. I have it selected now, and it's called a pressure pipe. And here's its stats, some of the stuff I selected as I made it. So it's selected. Basically, the polyline's been converted to a 3D model of the water line, as you can see, complete with some pipes and bends. And it has done that, so I have some bends here. This is also a pressure pipe. Here's my other pressure pipe in plan view here. And there we go. Here are the bends. So when I click these, it should have some bends in here. I'm going to freeze this alignment off real quick. I'm going to turn it to a no display real quick. Just temporarily. For now, I'm going to change the style just so I can pick at this pressure pipe network a little better. So I do have some bends in here. They're not as easily pickable. That is still on the alignment. So we can go into tool space as well, and we can see the pressure pipe network has been created, Madison Lane Water, and we have an entire pipe run. This is new to this area of Civil 3D. We can isolate pipe runs. We have our pressure pipes. We have no fittings and appurtenances. It just did bends, so I didn't have any fittings or appurtenances put in here yet. I'm not going to have anything in my selection set right now, so let's make sure of that. It wants us to go to the Modify tab, and then to Pipe Network to get the contextual tab. That brings up my contextual ribbon with all things related to pipe networks. And even more so, you can see the difference between our gravity pipe networks and our pressure pipe networks tools, contextual ribbons here. There's some new added commands and options here in Civil 3D 2022 compared to what we're going to see in this book, but we'll just continue through and see how far we can get with this. Furthermore, you could go to modify. This takes you to gravity pipes, my mistake. But if you go down here further in design, you have all your Civil 3D objects we've been learning about, minus grading and intersection at this time. And we'll go down here to modify pressure pipe network to get our pressure network's main header contextual ribbon up. We're going to do one simple thing here. We're going to say draw parts and profile. We're going to add the selected pressure pipe network parts into a profile view. Let me select that. And let me click one of the new waterline parts. Let me just click this one, for example. We can do more options here to select this part only. Let's see if it adds the whole network. It should. This one, it should do that by default. Do select ones if we told it to, more or less. And I'm going to go to the Madison Lane profile view to put this pipe on. I had hit enter first, my mistake. Now I'm ready to left data click the profile view. And there it goes. It did the entire network. The polyline we converted to a pressure pipe, it added to the profile view, which has some conflicts with, you can see the sanitary sewer gravity pipe is also kind of running in a way parallel to it somewhat. In some spots it very much is. So in plan view here, you can see the sanitary sewer with its sewer manholes is for a time running parallel with our water pressure pipe, okay, as we go. And we can see it similar here in the profile view, which is helpful to just get your head wrapped around that to start. Just as equally of a dangerous way to make these pressure pipe networks from objects initially is to have feature lines. And you use those to make your pressure pipe network from, and they will in some ways more accurately grab whatever elevations you have the feature line set at. Now, in this case, it was a polyline, but it did good to give us our initial depth under the finished grade, the road FG surface. So that's how this all started, our initial baseline that we're going to start designing off of. But if you had a feature line, for example, at very particular elevations along its vertices, it would mimic that feature line and do what you told it to do. So that's a very good way to make a pressure pipe network from scratch from an existing entity like a feature line. The second way to make pressure pipe networks is using the pressure network creation tools. So we'll see a specialized ribbon when we do that, and it's just for pressure network layouts. So you can choose different pipes, fittings, appurtenances, various parts lists. You can switch the parts, swap them, merge networks, stuff we learned in chapter 14 and a lot. To also help guide your design, there's a further item called a compass. So that displays the bend angles and deflections that are available to you as you design out your pressure pipe network. So remember I was talking about bend angles and deflections of pipe is a little more common to pressure pipes as certain materials and lengths have different deflection angle allowances, and being the pressure pipes, they have different precise fittings connecting them. So we're going to see what that compass means here in a minute. Basically, that compass, which is on page 303, gives, it's available to show what available bend angles and deflections are from this given terminus, for example. So it basically automatically snaps your cursor to an available bend angle for you, basically to prevent you from laying out just non-traditional or non-standard pipelines. It kind of isolates you to turn here, 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 etc. So it helps you draft a little easier. One of the bigger differences too with the pressure pipe network, we have to provide a value for cover at the beginning, or it allows us to. We did 3 feet last time. That sets the elevation at each end of the pipe, for example, according to that value. We chose 3. And then as we go, we find different things to design around, like we need more maintenance options and we need more valves to isolate or maintain the lines and need to be designed, or we have other pipes that conflict we need to go around. We'll edit a lot of elevations of pipe as we go. So before we go any further, let's look at some industry examples a little bit real quick, and then we'll go into them deeper after 15.2. Here we're back to the city of Missoula downtown layout, and we have a bunch of GIS showing where the underground public water pipes are, or mains, they call them, because they serve multiple entities. Generally, a main has to serve more than 2 locations or residences, and these are basically, this is a big pressure pipe network. Think this as an entire network. It's a little complex. You might not do a civil 3D drawing with this much on it, and for it would be a bit forbidding to design this all at once. This stuff was slowly designed over well over 100 years, connected into, added on, updated, maintained. In this database, we have other appurtenances like water hydrants we'll turn on. They're at every so many locations to help control fire control for cities. We have other things like water blow-off valves. Those kind of turned on a little more faintly. There are a lot of times at strategic points to let air out of lines and various other maintenance requirements. Sometimes they're at the terminus of lines, not always, but they generally can be. And we have air release valves, another appurtenance that we'll commonly see on water design. Those, as you can see, I'm toggling on and off here. Those are part of our system too. And you might have other things too. You'll definitely have valves. Oftentimes valves go to sometimes to isolate, maintain shutoffs to residences or big branches of water lines. They're a very critical part of any pressure pipe water system. And sometimes they're just at intersections to help isolate, like here. We have one at each branch of this intersection where the 2 water mains tee into each other. If we pick these, a lot of them have GIS data inside of them saying that the material and the size and the year produced and various other things. But going back to the layers, this just gives you a little appreciation for a large sewer pipe network for a municipality. And I have the same thing kind of going on Google Earth here, just with slightly different. This one's a little out of date as far as accuracy, but it gives a general idea. Over here I have the main, I'll turn on and off, but we have similar things, air release valves I can turn on and off, and blow off valves at certain terminuses and various other spots. We have booster pumps, which probably aren't here much, but they might be items up here by this water tank up here that serves part of the city, and control valves up there as well. A lot of times more of a large water service item. And we have a bunch of regulating valves up there as well. Most of these are system valves, meaning they help control and maintain the system via water. So a lot of times gate valves, not always. There's different types of mechanical valves, but these are the kind of appurtenances we're talking about when we're going to design water systems for municipalities or small cities or water distribution systems in general. These are some of the things we're talking about, our hydrants and our valves and other various things. So a little background on that. Let's get back on 15.2 to create our first pressure pipe network with a layout. Go to the second drawing here. I'm going to create a pipe network, but this time we're going to create it slightly different, a pressure pipe network, I should say. We're going to use the network creation tools. First, we're going to have to name our network something. Otherwise, you can accept its defaults. We'll pick our parts list again of water supply and our surface name. Road FG, it's bouncing around a little bit. For alignment name, we'll pick Jordan Court. And honestly, I can do some of this stuff later, but Civil 3D 2020 has a little more of these options available. I want to pick my pipe size. I pick my cover to 4.5 in general. I'm not going to worry about labeling any of the pipes, fittings, and appurtenances yet. That's more of a Chapter 16 item. And of course, we have different pipe run we can do for these. I'm still learning the power of pipe runs. They help isolate within a pressure pipe network. They are new to at Civil 3D 2021, so just keep that in mind. Hit OK. It says it's about ready to specify the first pressure pipe point. Okay, so at this point, we could have picked some of these. If we didn't get them right as we were going through there, we could have changed this 4-inch to 2-inch or 6-inch here. That's fine. We could have added which next fitting we want in between, bends or PIs. We have various other things to merge and break the runs and swap parts out. So some similarities here to Chapter 14. These are new ones here. They add branch fittings that are typically when two pipe runs intersect. So T's, Y's, and crosses. So crosses are two crossing intersections. T's, they tee into each other, and Y's, it's a slight Y shape, an angle. Adding fittings and appurtenances. We can add bends and PIs here. So a bunch of different stuff. I'm going to leave add bends automatically selected for now. And here are some of the options turning on and off our compass. We'll see in a minute. And I'm not seeing the exact area that says click pipes only. So I'm going to get basically appurtenances and fittings possibly in between. In this case, this is our fittings here. Okay. Our appurtenances would come on down under here if we had them. Let's zoom into our letter nomenclature here. And for now, just to keep moving on, I'm going to pick to the middle of circle A. Make sure your O snaps are turned on to adequate items, especially in this case, center is the important one, but I like having all these ones on that you see here. It bounced between these. I have my pipe network ribbon open, my pressure network plan layout. I'm designing this water main, and then I have my general pressure networks contextual ribbon. So those can get a little confusing. Go back to my one for this. So basically, after looking at the differences between 2016 and 2022, there's enough that I'm going to change my course of action here. I'm going to say once my water main to add the parts is up, my pressure pipe network to add parts, I'm going to say add new pipe run. I'm going to say create new pipe run. I haven't made it yet. And I'm going to just call it, let's say pipe run, whatever the next counter is. That and that. Leave the cover. Leave all these options. We'll leave that for now. We'll hit OK. I'm going to specify the first pressure pipe point is the center here. The next point, go to the center of B. Now we have our compass activated. Okay. And this will allow us to snap to only the allowable angles. See how it only goes to which angle to go next to. This lets us design a little more dynamically, so we don't have to sit here and do these manually one at a time. That is a pain to allow the deflection angle of this amount of pipe. Or at this point on the command line, you could tell it to be a curve as the next available option. We'll hit curve. Okay. And at this point, it wants you to click straight to apply the straight option, snap to the center marked C first. Let's go to center. And now snap to the center marked D, because it's asking where's the end of this curve going to go. We're now telling it to go to D. Let's go there. Curves through D. Okay. See, we made a bit of a curve through there. We're back to the compass to say which deflection we can have here for a pressure pipe network. We didn't do it exactly like the book, but we generally curved it and are snapping to the right things. We're going to try to add a fitting now, okay? And we have our fittings here and here. Let's see what we got in here. We're looking for 6-inch elbow 90 degrees. There it is. Try that one more time, add fitting. And I had to end my last command with saying this was D for straight. We can do this one more time. Now I have my fitting, I pick which fitting, and I'm going to go here. You see that tan colored line object? That's good. That shows it's about to add to it, and it did. Okay. So let's hit escape to clear the command, and then in the lower right viewport, let's zoom in the area where we inserted that fitting and take a look at what she looks like. Just like that. So it's elbow 90-degree bend. There's our pressure pipe in there going across. Here's its curved area right here. So we can see we added a little fitting in there. Okay. Here's our original pipe network of the stormwater we did in chapter 14. We'll go back to the left viewport here, and we're going to click on the fitting. And we have different grips on it to do various things. You can hover on them, get an idea. This one adds layouts. This one lengthens it. So we got a few different grips. This lengthen grip here is getting me to flip it around. So I'm slowly flipping around. It's a little trouble to visualize it. But as I pick it, it's moving it around and lengthening it. Sometimes these get pretty unwieldy. This is more of an introductory to this area that a lot of firms do struggle with to do right. I'm going to hit escape to end that. There's other little grips we'll play with later. I'm going to leave this 3D view open to help you visualize it a little bit. So enough commands have changed since these files were being wrote for this book. So I'm just going to bumble through this for a bit, and then we'll start it one more time. I'm going to continue to add a new pipe run. In this case, I'm going to say create new pipe run. And I'm going to just let it name the next size and leave that. Parts list, the pipe size, same vary, alignment, reference surface, and hit OK. When I hover near this, that means it's wanting to connect with that fitting, that 6x6 elbow. I'm going to accept that. I'm going to bring it now over here. Let's go right click, or excuse me, control and right click, and let's pick center. So next one. Okay. And now we only have so many options. So I'm going to pick curved again. And it will not go to this because, as you see, my compass, it only goes to where I can go on this, basically this bend. So I cannot go to this here, but I'm just going to end this right here. And let's hit enter, let our pipe network create. a little off from the book because we have different commands that have come in over the years. So if I go back to here, let's rotate to a more favorable position to look at our pipe network. We can see it's now added. My last pick over here goes to elevation 0, which is not ideal. It shoots way down somewhere where we don't want it to. If I go over here, be careful with this file, it's very unwieldy. You can see I have a little bit of craziness going on in here. Trying to orbit strategically. Let's just reset it with one of these isometric views. Rotate, rotate. And let's go to an isometric view of the corner. You can see it here. It's not perfect, but I have my pressure pipe network started in here. Let's go through that one more time. So let me just start by going to my left title block. Let's go in here and just delete this and start this over again. Say yes. We'll give this a go. And let's go back to the Home tab and go back to the beginning, Pipe Network, Pressure Network Creation Tools. We'll call it Water Main again. Name the pipe on that. We'll say Water Supply. We're going to start with just getting these set up right. Now that these are more functional. FG is the reference surface name. The cover, we're going to put 4.5 feet. And the reference alignment is going to be Jordan Court. So nowhere in Civil 3D in this book have things changed as much in the last 5 years as pressure pipe networks. So we're just going to do what we can here. We'll hit OK. Let's go back to the beginning. I somehow lost this the first time around. Now we have all of our options, but my initial option here, my heads up prompt, is specify first pressure pipe point, which is great. Let's start back at the circle, center, start, okay. And then we'll simply snap to circle B where we want the next spot, center. You can also check your O snaps here. I have mine turned off, but let's turn them back on. I was just doing one at a time. Now I'm going to have my option on my deflections here of the pipes. But instead of this, before we do that, we're going to select the curve option. And then we're going to go snap to the center of C. Make sure your snap cues up the icon. There we go. It curved into C. And now we want to go straight again. Let's pick straight as the gray option there. And I'll pick D. Well, that's kind of weird. It didn't really do what I wanted it to. Let me try it one more time. Delete the pipe network. Try it again. Pressure network creation tools. This seems to be easier for me just to start it over to get a good go at this at the beginning. It's good practice. Hit OK. Those snaps are on. And see there, I lost my points again. In this case, let's create a pipe run. Create new pipe run. Say that's fine. Specify my first pressure pipe point. Center here. Close enough. And we'll go to B. Now we want to curve it instead of using the compass, but we want to curve it through here. And honestly, I want to curve it through there again. I'll click there twice. That held the curve straight through the C. Now I want to go through straight. Go into D. I'm going to go right to E. And I'll click to F. Call it good for now. That'll create my first pressure pipe network. It automatically created these fittings here. That was a lot better for me than trying to deal with them before. It has them going. Various spots. This is maybe the best one we can put on wireframe, and they'll probably show up better. There they show the fittings. There they are. So I just made them. I haven't done a lot of edits yet. That worked a little better going through there. Now we create pipe runs. Let's go to a water network I helped design here in town and talk about it a little bit. It has a bunch of pressure pipe network stuff. So if we go to the 3D view, I have a bunch of pipes going here next to, this is the water main, this is the storm right here, or the sanitary sewer right here. So they kind of look a little bit similar. This is my sanitary sewer right here. As you see, I'm clicking things and structures in the plan view, which shows in the 3D view there. Let me hit escape to get that selection set off. I'll start selecting my water pipe, my pressure pipe. I'm going to select my fitting, my valve, and I got some other pipes coming into it. These make what we call, this is pipe runs, but it has intersections. So they intersect with each other more dynamically now in newer versions of Civil 3D. And here's my pipe network going through here with water services. Here's the end of my sanitary sewer. And I go all the way up here. Further up, I have more fittings in my pipe network that corresponds to basically up here. So I pick this and this. We have some fittings. A lot of those fittings are in here, but they only show as very schematic. But in 3D view, they show a little more graphically. Okay. This is just my pressure pipe network in a major subdivision that's going into our city here. So just showing you some different styles. Let's go into starting to edit pressure pipe networks using grips. I'll talk about them briefly here. So we have all kinds of different grips that do different things. We have different ones for fittings here at the beginning. These first 5, they do various different options. The diamond ones slide the fitting along the pipe without changing the rotation angle. These ones get kind of advanced and a little crazy. These arrow ones, the grip, they change the direction of the fitting that flips it around the axis. So I'm not seeing all these same grips. These have changed a little bit over time. The square grip in plan view changes the location of the fitting without rotating it. And these get a little tough. We have different ones for profile view. For fitting, this basically just changes the elevation of that fitting in the profile. We have pipe endpoint square grip that moves the location without changing the location of the other side. It's only available if neither end of the pipe is connected to a fitting. If we're connected to a fitting, this is canceled out. The diamond grip here swings the pipe around a fitting at the opposite end. So it shows the allowable deflection, but restricts movements. We have a bunch of other grips too. I won't get too much into. This one here at the end of the pipe creates a new fitting and a pipe projecting out. This one here, the triangular one here, it changes the length of the pipe and maintains the angle in that direction in the plan view. That one's pretty straightforward. The plus grip's a little more to add stuff, and I think these have changed some of them. This midpoint one for a straight pipe right here, it changes location without rotating, and we have some different pipe grips all in profile view here, which is changing basically the elevation of the pipe in various spots. This one here changes the length while holding its slope in that same slope orientation of our vector. This one here changes the elevation of the pipe without changing its slope, so you can move the elevation quickly. And this last one, the circular grip, it curves the pipe basically by holding the endpoints and forcing it to pass through a new location that makes the curve. So movement isn't restricted in any other way besides the curve. So let's try a couple in 15.3, and these could get kind of interesting because we have some differences between 2022 and 2016. We'll go to 15.3 file, editing pressure pipe networks using grips. We're going to zoom into D1 here and look at our fitting. Now that this fitting is a little more dialed in, we have more grips available. So this one, like we said, it slides it along and moves the pipes connected to it appropriately. Okay. In this case, we're going to pick it. And we're going to pick the square grip in this case, which moves its entire location. And we're going to move that way over here to this entire location, the center D2 circle. So that moved our pipe network fitting. Full location, it stayed connected. We could even probably change this to a different render. Anyway, we moved the location. Let's get this a little bit more situated. Let's try to stay on pan. It's a little bit unwieldy at times. Move back to my left viewport here. So basically the move we just did here, this is supposed to now be a 45-degree elbow, so it looks odd. So some of these are only as smart as you can get them, and they can be a little bit tough. We'll address that weird elbow later. So now it wants us to select this slightly curved pipe between E and F1, this pressure pipe here. And it wants us to select the triangular grip, which is within the circle F1. And we're going to simply do a move to F2. So in this case, I hover on it. It does say what it is. If you hover on these, they say, okay, that can be helpful. This is a lengthen. And I'm going to go to right click plus Control or Shift, pick center, pick the center of that. So we basically just moved the pipe a little bit, the curved pressure pipe. So we're in F2 now. Let's hit the plus sign it's asking for. Okay. And we don't have to pick any of this stuff in here because we've already done this in the dialog box. But now let's go to the network setting. We just got to get kind of used to it. We're going to put the cover value as we continue this pipe network to 4.5. And I'm going to select a 6-inch ductile iron from this point on. And we're going to move forward to within our constraints. So we have our compass that gives us the proper deflection angles, right? We're going to move up to G, which is over here. Let's click the center of G. Okay, we went that way. Let's hit escape to clear all selections and get off of our pressure pipe network tools. They're still open. You have to physically close them in this newer version with this button here. And this is different edits to your compass saying what it can do in different directions, what kind of deflections and colors. So we're just going to click the pipe between E and F2 right here, which we have selected on both viewports, and we're going to draw this into profile. So let's click Draw Parts and Profile on the Pipe Network's Water Main Ribbon tab right here. And now let's go to our Profile View area viewport on Jordan Court, and let's select the view. It should have added it, just a small segment right there. You can see how it conflicts or meshes with our sewer, sanitary sewer, indoor stormwater, whatever that is there. Let's go back to this viewport, hit escape again, but now let's start picking more pipes for all the way, all pipes and fittings basically from circle E to A. So let's start at A. Let me use a cross box in that method. Looks like I got everything there. If I miss something, it's not the end of the world, but I'm going to cross box in this direction in the negative. So grab stuff, same here. I'm going to continue on. Make sure I grab this fitting as well. Same with this one. We made fittings in between those, and this one as well. I think I got everything. So I should have about 9 things in my selection set, 6 pipes, 3 fittings. And I'm going to do the same. This, I'm going to say Draw Parts and Profile. Pick Jordan Court. Really slowly. Pick a grid point. And there's our profile view. Of course, we got one that's at 0. It shot it way down, but the rest of them are here. We have our fittings here. It came in our profile view, okay? Similar to the picture on 309, page 309. It wants us to go to the fitting near station 2+75. I got a kind of craziness going here. So right about here, go on up. And if you even hover in here, you can kind of see where you're at. So if you hover in here, this one's the fitting. This will work. So you have a grip here to move it around in the elevation sense. Make sure your dynamic input, once again, is turned on. I'm going to check mine here, use my hamburger button, turn a lot more things on here. My dynamic input is on. So there it is here. Okay. We go back here, and I'm going to pick this grip to move it. I'm going to choose right now 184 as the amount of feet. I'm going to hit enter. It didn't really show it very well as far as on the screen on my dynamic input, but you can see the bottom of this pipe is right around 184 on this, where this fitting junction is. So when I typed in 184, it moved it to 184 on the bottom of the pipe, essentially. So if I went to 183 and I type it, it's not really showing anywhere, but I just did type it. It'll move my pipe down to 183. Type 184 again. Moves it back to 184. Let's say I want 185. I type that. Moves it to 185, which isn't ideal, but I'm just showing you how you can quickly move that. Let's start also by grabbing our grip here, and let's fix this and get this off of a bad elevation. You can move it this way. I could also right click and say pressure pipe properties. Go in here to the part properties and get that one elevation similar to chapter 3. This is the one. So the start centerline elevation's at a proper elevation. This one, let's just bring it up to 180 for now to get it close. And that should have got it. We'll hit OK. There we go. It's a little better. This essentially is going to look kind of weird in this view because it doesn't, this area of the pipe network runs perpendicular to our alignment Jordan Court. So most things are going to show really good if they run somewhat parallel with our alignment Jordan color along here. Like most of our pipe network, it sort of does, but if it runs perpendicular like this, you're going to get interesting looking things on this profile view. So you maybe want a profile view running parallel to this direction to better show that. So that's pretty critical to try to get your profile views set up so they're favorable to be analyzed. So we'll move into 15.4. We're going to check some design and depth characteristics of pressure pipe networks in the fourth file real quick and get them all situated fast. We'll start by clicking the pipe from D2 to E here, and then we get our contextual ribbon for pressure network, the overall ones. Like I said, a lot's changed, but this one's in a similar spot. We're going to do a design check in this case of this pipe. There's various things to check. In this case, we'll uncheck them all except for deflection of the pipe, how much it deflects and at what angle. We'll hit OK. Thought for a little bit, and it brought up warning symbols in both the profile and the plan view here. So let's zoom into these. We've learned about them before. If we hover on them, you'll see the tooltip that comes up, the dynamic tooltip that says the current deflection and that says the maximum allowable deflection. So obviously we're way over it there. We'll hover on this one and the same deal. So this pipe without a fitting, the proper fitting here, cannot deflect at that degree of angle. So we can fix that, but we're not going to worry about fixing it necessarily at this moment. This just checks design parameters with the right given file. So this big long chunk here, we're going to do a similar thing, but in this profile view of this same pressure pipe, we're going to click that, and we're going to say depth check. And I'm just going to pick somewhere here. Pick that pipe. I just kind of had to pick the pipe. It's kind of weird. Let's say the minimum depth check is 3. Let's do 4.5. That's pretty good for a moderate climate. And we'll do 10 for maximum. We don't want it to go any deeper. We'll hit OK. It'll show us a warning on here if the minimum and maximum depths was ever betrayed. And that can be helpful if your pipe network's getting complex. We have another warning symbol. If we hover on that, we can see this one doesn't necessarily give me much of an indication. It just says it's either too deep or too shallow. So we would have to shallow it up or deepen it depending on what our needs. And I'm guessing by looking at this, it's a little too shallow here and here, but possibly a little too deep right here. Okay. Let's go into 15.5, editing some pressure plan layout tools. We'll start by zooming into, on the left viewport, D2 here. We'll just pick on one of the pipes as our first noun to get some verbs. One step ahead of you, let's click this elbow first, this fitting. And let's just hit the delete key to delete it. It's out of there. Now let's pick one of the pipes now, and we'll get our contextual ribbons up to display that up in the ribbon tab. And we're going to click Edit Network and Plan Layout Tools. Okay. This is in the plan view, now in the profile view. So we're using the tools only for plan layout. Profile would be for the vertical. Pick that. Now I have this going here, and this is what I was trying to find in one of the first exercises. I have pipes and bends and pipes only. This is where I was really looking for. We can add fittings and appurtenances as we go. We're going to check a few things in the ribbon though first. We're going to verify that road FG is the selected surface, which is. We're going to verify The cover is 4.5 by default to set, which it is now. I'm going to get a new type of pipe and bends, 6-inch ductile iron, and I'm going to select a different type of fitting, 6-inch elbow, 45 degrees this time, so we get the right elbow. Now I'm going to click the Add Fitting icon right here, once I got everything picked. And now it's asking for, like I said, in the heads up prompt or the command bar, I always kind of pay attention to what it says. It usually gives you a lot of hints. It's wanting the placement point for the fitting. So we're going to pick the end of the pipe near the D2 circle, either end. So I put 2 fittings in there, which wasn't ideal. Hit escape twice. So I essentially put 2 fittings. Hit Control Z or undo that. Give this another go. We have all of my stuffs just staying up here in the ribbon. Add that fitting again. Let's check out some of these grips. This will flip it to the right direction-ish. Okay, so we got that going a little bit better. It's in the right general direction. So now let's click this pipe that's not attached to the other end yet, as we can see both here and here. In this case, I want this diamond-shaped grip here, and I want to hover it to the endpoint here. And it should have connected the pipes. Try again. There we go. I want to see that tan symbol there. Really odd. There it did it. Should have sucked in like that, and you should have seen the tan symbol. Very weird. They take some getting used to, no doubt. Let me turn shaded to 2D wireframe to better see this. Should look about like that. Here we have our profile view. It wants us to do the same steps basically for circle E to get a little practice on this. So we got the wrong type of fitting in here. If we go here, right click and go to fitting properties, we can see what it is somewhat. Ductile iron elbow at a 90-degree angle. We want to put a 45-degree angle fitting in there. Let's hit OK. I'm going to click it, delete it, the delete key. Let's add a fitting now that we have the right things selected up here and the material and the cover, these various things. That's key. Let's say add fitting. I got that end. Let's hit escape twice. Get out of that command. Let's take this and flip it. Okay, we have a few directions to flip it. I did one too many. That should work. So it's looking like that. There's a few directions to flip it for both sides. It's getting close. We just need to connect this pipe now. Let's try to connect it in this 3D view, which it won't let me in this one. And let's try it. Try location and hover near the fitting, and the key is to see that peach colored connection symbol. So there we go. Didn't quite get it in the 3D view. Let's go back to my left viewport. Let's select it. That should have done it. There we go. Now on the ribbon, let's change our fitting to something else, to a 6-inch T. Okay. And we're going to go to the circle at F2 now that we got our fitting we're going to replace with. We're going to change this out. We'll delete it out physically. We'll do the same steps here to add this fitting. Pick a replacement point there. We'll hit escape twice. Pick the fitting. Let's try to flip it this way. That's looking better. Let's go to F2 area. There's our fitting. And it looks close to connected, but just in case, let's just make sure pulling it in there, sucking it in there. You can always right click and say check the properties of just this individual part. It'll show what it's connected to, which it looks like it's connected to 2 items. Same with this pipe. Right click, and this time we'll go up here to pressure pipe properties. You can see it's connected on both ends to a fitting. So this one has fittings in there. And we go in here and we pick on this fitting. It's not named anything special. It's just fitting 104 for now. That's easy to rename later, but let me go back to right click pressure pipe properties. So I have it open on both ends. So this tells me that I do not have that connection. Let's hit OK. Let me go here. That should have done it. Yes, connected it now. Okay. We'll try one last item here in this T we just made here. Let's check out this plus sign, and this continues the layout from where we're last left off. It'll add a pipe. So that's really handy. Now we only have so many options here because we have a T fitting which doesn't have as much deflection. So this is literally only calculating in the small amount of deflection we have for the pipe itself. Let's go up to H to the center, hit enter, and that continued on our pressure pipe network up to H. That's it for this area. We'll go to exercise 15.6 now, towards the end of the chapter. Before I go here, let's take a quick look at some industry drawings of interest. So here's another pressure pipe network. I can see I just have a really closed loop system here. If I select one and say select similar in my plan view, and also my profile view, my parcels down here that have no elevations on them, but they have varying distances. And my pressure pipe network is up here with given elevations, and my surface is meshed in with it. Likewise, I have a project I'm going to open up here I did for the Little Bighorn battlefield in Montana. And this is our plan set that goes through the water pressure pipe network we did from this well house all the way up to the headquarters, and over here as well. We did a large sweeping area around a hill where there was some memorial site stuff that we had to avoid on this large pipe network. This was the end result. I started here at the well house and brought it, and we checked our deflections and various things. It was just called out simply by saying horizontal deflection per manufacturer's recommendations. And here I have my same pipe network, pressure pipe network, with certain AutoCAD styles of the slope. It's following the terrain to a certain amount, and its minimum bury dimensions are shown, and we have annotations at the different vertical deflections and bends. Basically, here we have a 22.5 degree bend. The standard bends are 90 degrees, 45 degrees, 22.5, and 11 and a fourth. And this indicates it's a mechanical joint We have different types of joints of bends. And yeah, here is our typical ending result of some of these is a plan view and a profile view showing your pressure pipe. In this case, a 6-inch water main PVC pipe of that material going in a plan and a profile view with your elevations and stations associating it in the horizontal and in the vertical. And here they correspond together as it goes up the alignment, further up, and it's going uphill, and it's showing in the plan and profile view. And here's our final PDF that just kind of depicts all of this. So we have our limits of disturbance and various other things in here. So here's another little pipe network next door to the visitor center. And here's one where we did a major deflection as much as we could for this given pipe, this vertical radius. We did a vertical radius here, and we did a horizontal radius here. So this pipe had a large bend in the horizontal and also here in the vertical, as you can see, at the same time as it came in to the existing storage tank vault. There was quite a bit of annotating to get that accomplished, as well as all the connections. And here we have some of the more greater details of the appurtenances here, like a valve and trenching and various other things that detail connection things here and here, and here, air release valve, and some other various options. So we have that. We'll put that aside for now. And the same drawing, I have some of it here, and it's design drawing where I have my pipe network, pressure pipe network laid out in its profile view as it goes across. It's master one, and it's individual smaller sheets here with all their annotations. Most of them with dynamic labels, grade labels of the pipe, and station elevation labels that had to get really unique. We made this work pretty well. It could add a little more automation, but it's generally a pressure pipe network showing different types of, in this case, a vertical and horizontal, which we saw here in this pressure pipe network here. So went as much as we could in the bend and in the horizontal and in the vertical. So ending with 15.6, we're going to learn a little bit about more profile layout tools, okay? And we'll end the chapter that way. Let's click on the new pipe we just made from H to F2, and it goes to the T-fitting. We're also going to grab the T-fitting here as well. So let's have two options picked. We're going to continue to add these to our profile views. So let's, in our contextual ribbon, we pick the noun, we're going to get the verb. Let's pick the verb. Let's draw the parts in the profile view. Let's go to this upper right viewport and let's click the profile view here, and they added successfully the T and the new pipe here. So continuing on with at least some of the pipes or fittings already selected, we're going to go to Edit Network, but in this case, we're going to go to Profile Layout Tools on the ribbon right here. So we're going to edit in the profile view. Okay, so this was a good segue from my pipe I designed in Montana that we had to edit in the vertical curving and the horizontal curving as well. So you can add different things in this area, profile layout tools. You can break, tell it to follow surfaces, curve pipe in a vertical sense. In this case, we're going to go to click add a bend. Adds a vertical bend to a part based just here. Okay. And so follow that picture carefully on 313. This would be helpful to have more of these in this chapter, but your key is to get close to the placement of the fitting. You want to see that tan peach symbol or whatever, to get this new 45-degree bend to appear. It might look a little odd because of the vertical exaggeration, but we want it to go right in here. Let's try clicking right here, see what happens. When this comes up, let's pick counterclockwise. And there we have a connection there. We'll continue on. It added a little fitting there in that direction we wanted, okay? Now we're gonna make sure that this is selected in the current pressure pipe size for pressure pipe addition. Get 6-inch. And let's add a pipe now instead of a bend. We'll click right on this newly created elbow is what it's asking, and you want to see that tan connection symbol. It's always key. And when prompted now for the part at the end, at the start of the range or the end of the range, click this pipe here. So get close enough to it here so you can see that peach connecting symbol. That's always key with pipe networks. Click that. And yeah, let's click yes, even though it might not be in the same path. Let's just try adding another elbow right here. Should have been the 6-inch elbow, 45 degrees. At that. Center. So we have a few things adding in here. We're not getting them to connect. So I just restarted it quick. I'm going to try this one more time. There's a few little steps to it, and I won't get it perfect, but I'll get it accomplished. So let's make sure on our bend we have the 6-inch elbow 45 degree. Let's start by adding that again. And let's add it to this profile view. Make sure that peach connection symbol shows. Left data click, hit counterclockwise. That goes in. Now we want to add a pressure pipe, which is also the 6-inch ductile iron. Let's select that, and let's pick the start of it is here. Make sure the peach connector comes on. And let's pick the part at the end of the range, which is here. Make sure that peach symbol comes on again. And we'll hit yes. This part gets a little bit interesting, so bear with me. Basically says let's click the new elbow here. And now let's click this red circle. Right click, shift, or control. Let's get the center. Now we're going to add a bend again at the end of the newly created pipe, making sure the proper GIF is displayed that we saw in 1510. So let's add a bend again. Make sure that is displayed just like that. Let's, in this time, go with clockwise direction. This is getting pretty interesting. So let's click this pipe next to it at this point, and at this point let's click the upright triangle grip at the left end of the pipe. And this one here. So let's try grabbing either this one. The goal is to get that symbol to show, or you can click on this triangular grip and drag it in as well. And they'll both still connect the fitting with the pipe. And you can see that that was accomplished here relatively close. They're a little off, but that's how they do look indeed. You could have done the same editing in this plan view and also in the 3D view as well. Probably was the easiest to do it in this profile view, which is pure vertical. So that's why they had you do it there. It's probably the more preferable option. In the picture on 314 showing the final pipe is kind of the goal there. If you look at that, it should look a lot like this. So with the ribbon of our pressure network profile layout, water main still, it's a a mouthful. We're going to click break pipe. And it wants us to locate these two vertical lines. So we're going to break the pipe on these red geometries. Let's hover near here and get this symbol. I think will be good. And then I broke the pipe right there. Let's repeat this again and do break pipe. Let's just get it close to here. And this one will break right here. You want to see that symbol? Break it again. Now I have a broken out pipe. It's just this little section. I could hit delete right now, or I could say delete part here. Let's just use this so it better erases the part from the profile view only. Enter. Now let's add an appurtenance. In this case, let's see what we got. Doesn't even really tell us which appurtenance to pick, but there's only really one here. It's a gate valve, 6-inch of certain PSI pressure rating by the AWWA, which is American Waterworks Association, yada, yada, yada. Different ratings. We'll pick that, add it. I'll do my best just to wing it here, add it there, and that added it right there. So now it's added to this side. Let's hit escape, and when the GIF appears, like when I added that, it says the connection is going to be made. So when I say I want to add another one, when I see this GIF, like we've been seeing all chapter, that means that the connection will be made to the pipe network. So that's some of the most critical learning about the last couple chapters. Now let me click this portion of the pipe I cut. Let's just drag it in with this grip, and you want to see the GIF again to show that's going to connect. And they should connect there. It's a little off. It's had a hard time refreshing, but generally if it looks good in the profile view here, the 3D view will be a little off. You should be golden if you have it looking about like this. One of the last things we're going to do is to click follow surface in the pressure network profile layout tab to get our surface to guide our design of our profile view of our pipe network. So first things first, just hit escape, make sure all your selection sets off, and then let's pan to the right and select this long pipe. And if you have the wrong ribbon on pressure networks, go back to pressure network profile layout. You want to find this option here. It modifies basically the pressure pipe network parts so they follow the elevation of the reference surface. This is a very handy thing to do when the surface varies a lot in elevations. Pick it again. I'll hit enter to finish. Let's pick the depth below the surface at 4.5 feet. Hit enter. It did a bunch of work for me basically. So this is one of the better tools of following a surface to keep a pressure pipe network moving along. And that's the end of chapter 15. I know we muddled through it just a little bit, but there was a lot of differences between the last 5 years. They've added a lot of good commands in pressure pipe networks.